Well, happy Monday, everyone.
Woohoo! Monday vibes!
All right. So we are finally on the second to last Monday of the month. We have one more Monday to finish July, so we're gonna finish really strong, talking about how to build business relationships. You know, that professional development that we all need. And with the subject, we're gonna have Kara, taking over the lead today. I don't know why Sarah came to me, but I don't even know a Sarah to start with.
Johnny, we are going to ask you after the show, okay? We need to know the details.
That's
Right?
it. I'm gonna get
Who is this
crucified
chick?
after this. Well, so with us we have Irina Fornover, manifestation coach, Bruno Gill, or email copywriter, and Kara, of course, to take over. So, Kara, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Okay. So I love this conversation because as an executive coach, when it comes to, minding the gap between intent and behavior, relationship is a huge part of that if you want to mind the gap between executive to operations. And you need to mind that gap. I had somebody ask me the other day, why do I care about that? And I was like, I mean, if you don't know, I can't help you, because the operators are the ones actually running your business and making you money. And if they're not happy, you're not making as much money.
Yeah.
Seems pretty straightforward. And it goes to all of the relationship conversations we have been having, whether that is your partner, your employee, your boss. Everything is built on a relationship, and all relationships require a level of trust. So I would like to go around with everybody and find out, when you think back, let's start with our worst bosses, right? So if you think back to the worst bosses that you have ever had. Oh yeah, like everyone's like, yep, got it already.
Oh my God.
Emotional damage.
Boom. Say more. Yes. No,
Well,
literally say
Can
more.
I,
That's
can I
genius.
start?
Go,
Because
go,
as
Irina.
well, like it's funny because when we were talking about what is our topic for today, nothing was coming to me. But as soon as Kara just mentioned, how important is it? Is it even important? And all of a sudden, you just downloaded the information like back 19 years ago. I applied for this great job. I thought it's like such a great, up level in my career. I was working in treasury department and my boss was young, good looking, but such an ass because he was micromanaging to the point that I had to check in when I was coming in. I had to check out when I was leaving. And the worst thing was happening in between because I remember there was one incident when he was pushing me to get this report done, the analytics, because I was working in the treasury department analyzing some financial data. And I remember he would be calling me every 5 minutes. Is it done yet? Is it done yet? And this is like for everybody on this call, just to realize that the more you start pressuring another person, it doesn't matter whether it's job related or just, like personal related, the more you put the pressure on the person, nothing good is going to come out of it. Because people put more stress on themselves and the performance just go down the drain. So the point is I was rushing. And then when I had this report for him, he didn't review that report for another week, which throws me completely off. Like, you don't deal with me this way, like the rotation rate in that department was phenomenal. Like people were coming and leaving. Nobody was staying because, that was such a bad environment. But I just had to speak up for myself. I went to the human resources. I talked to the people who could like really help me out. I drafted the beautiful email saying that no matter what your position is in the company, there is no way you're treating these employees. Like I was already made up my mind, if worse come to worse, I'm just gonna, like shut the door, but this is not environment I'm gonna be working in. But this is exactly what happened. But do you think anybody reacted? Like they like they took, like they had the compassion. especially the guy in the human resources, because like he was the one to participate in hiring me. And obviously it wasn't the first case, like they all had these folders and folders and folders of other employees, but nobody give a fly. You know why? Because they were looking just at the top management. Okay, this guy delivers what they need at the executive level. Nobody was really concerned what was going on the floor. And that was the sad part. To make a long story short, I left the company. That was the best decision ever. And from then on, I learned so many lessons: how to stand up for myself, how to like really prioritize myself and know exactly what I want. So this is just personal experience.
Oh my God, I love that. I heard micromanaging. I heard that false sense of urgency instead of motivation. I heard surface service. Oh, yes. And I also love that I heard that even though it was the worst boss, it was one of the best lessons, which I think is always true. Yeah.
Mhm.
Bruno, John, tell me about your worst boss.
Who
Go
who
ahead,
goes
Bruno.
first? Wanna go first or should I go first?
You
Bruno,
can go
do it.
first because mine it's fairly simple. I organize the whole office, and we'll speak about it in a second.
Okay, Jesus Christ. All right. So when I was in university, I left my mom's place at 19 to go and live by myself, simply because I wanted to experience what like was like to be independent. And like, so I left my mom's place, and then I had this job, but then COVID hit, right? So everything kind of was every was all a bit all over the place. And then I found this job at McDonald's. It was like 15, 20 minutes away, right? And obviously in McDonald's, nobody gives a fucking fly. Nobody cares, right? So this one time, right? Because they think their trainings are awesome, but they train you once and they expect you to know every goddamn thing on the fucking whatever. The big boss was there, whatever, and like the guy was big, like the guy was very big, like big in size and like big in tall, like he was, the guy was like 2 meters tall, whatever. Like, and like people were afraid of that guy, like because the guy, like like the guy, like they were afraid of him. And it's funny because this one time he decided to take all his frustrations, all his negativity on who? On in the middle of the store, right? In the middle of the store, everybody's looking. The fucking customers are looking, people are looking, and I'm just there like fuck. It's like hell has stroke upon me. Fuck. And I swear to God, because like it literally after that it literally was the next 2 hours were the like they just went so slow, literally. And I remember getting home, I stroke in tears, and like the next day, even worse. And it's hilarious because the next day, actually no, not the next day. The next day was Monday because that was a Sunday. Yeah. Oh yeah, the night before I did a night shift to then like sleep 7 hours, and 2 hours after I slept, I would be there again for like another 5, 6. But uni times, right? You whatever, you just you kind of learn. But at the same time, I do identify a lot myself with it, because if it wasn't for McDonald's, I probably would never understand with my own hands the meaning of business and how a business actually works.
Yeah.
Because I understood organization, although they weren't organized at all, but I was, or I became. I understood when I should put myself in front and take initiative of things instead of waiting for other people to do that. I learned speed. I learned time management. Because everything is so fast, you have to know what you should do first and what not, what's more important and what not, right? I learned that, for example, in a business, it doesn't matter what you're doing as long as you're making money, it's fine. Like you have like three taps of water. Yeah, three taps of water, right? One is making money and the other one are problems. Do I need them to make money now? No, because this one is making the money. This one is the one who makes all the money. So I just keep running it, keep running it, keep running it. If it's not an emergency, then there's no problem. Just let them close, whatever. Um, and again, also for me, like what I understood also about business is that like It's all about speed. The more problems you can fix now, the less problems you have, and the more you can do and move forward, right? Um, and also, for example, like, um, well, the point of a business is to make you rich. It's just like, that's it. That's the point of the business. If you don't want to be rich, then don't be in business. Go work a normal job, which is totally normal. It's totally fine if you want to do that, right?
Yeah.
Totally fine if you want to work a normal job. But there are some people, like me, for example. Number one, I don't like having people telling me what to do. And I will go to the absolute limit, right? Like, for example, I have my clients, right? And stuff, but it's a different relationship, right? It's like I have my own little business, right? And I'm kind of partnering up with another business. It's like nobody's paying me salary or whatever. Like, it's a one-off, or it's a retainer, or you kind of make a deal and you see what works best, right? It's not like I'm inside a working place, and I have an actual boss on top of me saying, like, have you done this, have you done that, or what are you doing? But I'm like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where, like, for me, it's in the long term. For me, in terms of business, is like, obviously have my own business in preference online, so I don't have to pay rent for anything, whatever. Because um, and yeah, that's really about it. Like, maybe one day start like an email marketing agency, right? Uh, I mean, could do that, but that would just be one business. Another thing about business is that you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket, because if you lose those eggs, then you're fucked. That's it, you're done, right? The same thing as investments, whatever it is, stock investments, S&P, 401ks, bonds, crypto, oil, gas, whatever. Like, even if you're investing in currencies, never put all your money in one bag, because if that bag goes away, you have no money. So yeah, it's just one of those things where, like, when it comes to money and business, for example, it's quite funny, because, like, one of the reasons why a lot of business end up failing is because the people who take care of taxes and accounting have no clue what they're doing. um, and this is my opinion. I would like to hear all of your opinions as well, after John tells his story. But yeah, I do believe that one of the reasons why, like, the majority of business end up failing is because when it comes to do the taxes and also accountancy and stuff, if you don't have money to pay for an accountant or taxes, yeah, it becomes tough. Yeah. So yeah, but yeah,
Nice. So what I
coming
heard
back.
there is I heard the big golden arches, and that you learn from them the difference between what a training is versus what it is to learn on a job. Like, they trained you once on how to do things, but then you had to learn time management, and you had to learn how to navigate other people. I also heard the reprimand in public and how that tainted your experience of everything else. I call that like layers of dread. When you get reprimanded in front of somebody, especially if it's in front of other employees and guests, it starts with embarrassment, which then you go home and then you're afraid to go back the next day, which then makes you exhausted just by thinking about going, which then makes you dread doing it again, which then makes you hate the entire experience. So when they say a bad manager can ruin an entire business, that's what they mean. Not necessarily the business. McDonald's clearly is doing just fine. But everyone's experience with that manager ruined their taste of McDonald's, right? So that's how that works. And it goes back to all the eggs in one basket, right? So it is common to say, well, we did this once, so it's good, right? But we know that knowledge is not transformation. That takes retention or repetition to build that kind of retention, right? Because otherwise it's just information. I love that. Yeah. John,
That
talk
is
to us. Tell me about your worst boss.
My worst boss. Okay, well, to begin in this company, I started from the bottom. I started picking up the phones at this company. And during that time, the owner of the company was very much involved in the company. But as I grew in ranks in the company, uh, at one point I went through almost all the departments in the company, and I got to marketing. My next stop was going to be the business operations manager. But to become the business operation manager, you have to have a college degree, which I don't have. So the owner spoke to his wife, and the wife said, "Well, my best friend has a small business degree, so let's bring him over." Yeah, he did have a degree, but he couldn't draft any of the Excel charts. He was a professional on paper, on just the diploma,
Mm-hmm.
but he couldn't do execute the actual thing. So once he got in the company, people started noticing the effects of somebody who didn't know how to run, because the owner, while he was super knowledgeable, he had other businesses and he wanted for the business to start running by itself. That's why they handed over to this guy. So what ended up happening is that people started complaining, and I kept hearing complaints, and nobody will address to him. They will come to me because they had seen me go from the bottom up. So one day I said to the marketing department, "Okay, everybody, let's all apply for different jobs, and we're all gonna walk away the same day." And that's what we did. We walked out the whole marketing department the same day because we were tired that they wouldn't push me to the next level because of the degree, and people were tired of having somebody who didn't know where he was standing, that he was a professional but just because he had a diploma, which unfortunately happens way too often on businesses nowadays.
Yeah, I call that thread versus cred, right? So we talk about that a lot with my executives. If you have somebody who's worked from the bottom up and they have created a performance thread of an ability to achieve, to step into a new location and do new things and advance into that next space, and you decide they don't have the right credibility because they don't have a degree, so you hire someone, when you promote the wrong people, you will lose the right people. That is consistently true in business. And we do it a lot because for some reason we think a document says more than a performance thread. I don't know about you guys, but relationships and trust, that's what we started with, right? And I'm going to trust the person who consistently delivers rather than the rando I found out because some university said, "Oh, but they passed a test."
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Can
Okay,
I
I
just
got
add one
juicy
comment
stuff.
to
Go,
that?
go,
It
go.
just tells about the common hour thinking versus creative thinking. And we were all trained, we all know by society. Okay, you have to have the degree, you have to have experience in order to land this perfect job. But who says that? There are so many people who have amazing ideas, who could make so much money for the company. But if the companies are closed minded and they have that scarcity mindset, they don't understand what growth is all about. That's exactly what they're going to be like, ending up with. They're going to be just having people with the degrees and experience but no creation point. And that's why they are going to be with the income where they are. They're not going to really grow to the level they could.
Yeah. Well, and we saw it, right? They literally created a leader in John. This business used him from the bottom all the way up and created a leader in it. And then hired somebody else, and that leader took the people they were leading and let them right out the door. Bye. And you see that happen a lot in businesses where somebody gets fired because they didn't get the promotion and the team is still following them and not the person that actually got promoted. Causes all kinds of cultural ripples. Yeah. Yeah. I think that is something that comes up a lot. And a lot of it goes back to trust, and all of it goes back to healthy relationships. Every single one of them. Micromanaging, that's a trust issue. Do you trust that your team can? Okay, I'm going to show you a funny thing. It's going to look really silly, but we had a micromanager who was so bad that somebody heard the term Siegel manager, and that became our whole thing. Have you heard the term Siegel manager?
No.
Okay, so this is the manager's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?" He would walk by and we'd be like, he had no idea. He was like, "Is that a dance move?" Yep. Mm-hmm. Sure is. Yeah, that's exactly what that is. It's a group thing. It's cool.
Uh,
But that's because it's a lack of trust, right? If you If you need to so closely watch what your team is doing, you do it. You hired a team to do it, let them do it, right? Trust. But that goes to that false sense of urgency also, right? So I don't trust that you are going to do things on time, so I'm going to ride you and I'm going to ride you and I'm going to ride you. I don't even need that for 2 weeks. So you're going to feel this massive load of stress coming at me, and then you give it to me because you're like, okay, it's like, all right, we did it, right? And you're like, oh, that's cool, I don't need that till next week. You're like, look, no, 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 no.
Please.
Yeah. And then surface service. So we say a lot of, there's the of service leadership or servant leadership, or this is, a very, very common thing that comes around these days. Because if you are in leadership, if you are in a management position, somebody else is essentially doing the job, and your job is to help them do the job, right? You're no longer base operations. And so it makes sense to be of service. Like your literal job now is to make sure that they can do their job, you to be of service to them. But we like to do that on the surface. Like I said hi, I smiled at them. What more could they possibly want? I don't know, like the tools to do their job.
Yeah.
And then the training, when we talked about the training, the once train, I mean, isn't that the most common thing? We literally just ended on that. Information is not transformation. That's not how it works. So you can train, you onboard, and you go through all of the paperwork and things, and then we're like, hey, you're good now, right? Except even from this conversation, all of our friends watching, right? Everybody in here is going to remember maybe 10% of this next week. And they chose to be here. Like, we didn't even have to pay them to get them in the door.
Mm-hmm.
So your employees are definitely only going to retain about 10% of that information that you give them, right? Unless you build a relationship with them. Unless you actually act of service, you get to know them, you go below the surface, you start making commitments and keeping commitments and allowing them to make and keep commitments. How great would it have been, Irina, if your boss had said, hey, I need this I have to be able to review it by Tuesday, can you get it to me by Monday? And then allowed you to do that. Maybe once check in, say, how's it going? Anything you need? Not, is it done yet? Is it done yet? Is it done yet? And in the boss's defense, he probably thought he was asking if you needed support.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think so.
Well,
Well, no, because you're on the other
No,
end.
and him, absolutely not. But I hope he learned the lesson, because when I brought that resignation letter, that was a shocking face he had, because he never thought, he was probably used to threaten everybody, to intimidate people. And here I come, I'm just like, here it is. I'm here.
Not into that.
It was shocking for him. So I hope he learned something out of it, because I left him such an impression.
Which it should. And when that happens, absolutely, hopefully it did kind of stick in the gall, like, oh, snap. And maybe I could do something to be better. But even the worst of our bosses, even the jerk at McDonald's who yelled at you in front of all of the other teammates and guests, even the jerk that you had to put your resignation in, even the manager who came in and took the promotion, right? All of them, in their head, they are doing the right thing. None of us go out and start the day with, I'm going to mess this up. I'm going to see whose day I can make the worst and how many people I can make miserable. That's just not the way our brains work. Even Thanos, who wanted to destroy half of the universe, thought he was the hero.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He thought he was
That is
the
so
good
true.
guy.
That is awesome.
Well, Al Capone.
That's
I don't know if you heard the last letter of Al Capone. He was saying that he was giving pleasure and happiness to people, and yet people still deemed him as a bad person, although he did a lot of bad things. I agree with you. Nobody thinks that we're doing something wrong. Like all of us, we like the topic that we had right before even coming in. You see, my head was not even there until you brought it up. Full circle. So yes, I agree with you, Kara.
But that's so full circle. That is exactly the thing I would love to get to do to ask everyone next. So when you think about your worst boss and then think about your best boss, could you have appreciated your best boss without the understanding of that worst boss, without that balance? Yeah.
I think
Best in
everything
work.
comes in comparison, right? Because
Yeah.
if you have nothing to compare, that's the same thing in a personal relationship. If you happen to meet that excellent person and who doesn't give you any trouble, you take them for granted, you take them for a ride. And when that person is gone, all of a sudden it's just like an awakening moment. Like what did I do?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Very true. Like for example, like for me, like in terms of like my, I think like the best boss I have was like on my first job, but that is because I didn't had just one. I had like kind of like several of them. There were too many managers, and honestly, it's like when I think like when you divide the work in between all them, they don't get upset that much, because like they don't have all the responsibility on top of them, right? And I think that's another thing. Like nobody wants to have all the responsibility on top of somebody who probably will believe like I don't get paid enough for this. Like imagine being so miserable at your job, the money is not even a motivation for you to get up.
Yes, but at the
Yeah.
same time, that's what
Like,
creates leaders at one point or another. That very same
bro.
thought. The difference between an employee and a leader is the employee will think, well, I don't get paid enough for this thing. Sounds like a Monday problem to me.
That's a good one.
That when the leader, like all of us, we're all business owners and self-employed, like that issue has to be dealt with it now. If not now, I'm gonna put in my schedule, it's gonna be dealt no matter what, and we don't skip that. That's the big mentality shift.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is true.
And I would say that's the difference between managing and leadership, right? So managers get titles, they get all of that, but you only ever want to manage a process, a product, never the people. With the people, you want to lead them, right? And we saw the difference in John's story, right? So somebody else with the cred got the position over his thread of performance, and yet that person was trying to manage what was going on, and John just led them right out the door.
Yeah, a whole team of 17 people walked out the same day with me.
And that's the magic of leadership versus management. You can give anybody a title, but only important people can become somebody who other people trust and follow. That's how that works. So I call this trust and triggers, right? So it's the two T's of leadership. So you have to build that trust. You cannot micromanage. You have to trust that somebody else is going to do their job so you can do your job. And if they don't, you have to have a conversation. But first, you have to handle your own trigger. So, like the situation with Bruno, when your boss freaked out, odds are there was holy bunches of other things behind the scenes under the surface, right? So we can only do the surface service to this because we don't know what was going on. Maybe their mom died that day. Maybe they stubbed their toe 6 times since they woke up. That sure puts me in an irritated mood. But whatever it is that's going on in our lives, when we need to handle other people, we have to trust our triggers and kind of calm them down so that we can create a safe space where they can trust us to hear them, to see them, to work with them, rather than just reacting to our own triggers. Yeah. So self leadership is where all leadership starts. So my question to the group is, when you, based on this good bad, as we're coming full circle here, so the good bosses, the bad bosses, what you've learned from them, what you've grown through, the leadership you've created in your own life, what would you say was the first step that you took to your own leadership path?
Discipline. So like doing something I hate, but like I love it.
I love that.
which
Choosing
is
the
basically
mindset.
working nights that I don't want, working mornings I hate, going to the gym when I don't want. Even nowadays, like I wake up early, very early. Like I wouldn't say very early. I mean, I wake up at like 9, 8:30. At least I try to. Um, doesn't matter how I feel, tired or happy or whatever. It doesn't matter. Uh, Regardless how you feel, you have to perform. And also another thing is what really helped me is like even nowadays, like for example, I go to the gym and like I'm obsessed with martial arts basically. And I love Muay Thai. Me and John actually had a conversation about this before. And like back then when I started joining the gym, right, to gain discipline to teach me more than school ever taught, uh what happened was it was about the weights, right? But then I understood that weights don't protect you. They just kind of make you look better, not even stronger. They just make you look better, whatever, aesthetically. So then I started, because I started getting more into the thing of, like, like a leader, right? Even like self leadership and stuff. You should be strong. You should be able to protect your family. Your friends should be able to protect yourself as well, right? So I thought to myself, you know what? Like I'm gonna get back into it because when I was a kid, I did it as well. Not Muay Thai, I did karate. So like now I'm doing Muay Thai and stuff, and like the more I do it, the more obsessed I am. Like I am completely in love, because it's so liberating. Not because of the negative energies or the bad energies or stuff. It's liberating because it teaches you a way of life, very different. Like it shows you how powerful you can physically be. Although it's not just physically, like it's obviously very like mindset strong. Like spiritually, like pineal gland and stuff.
Yeah. That's what I'm
Um,
hearing here is a whole lot of mindset. So your first step down the leadership path was, so I call it lie to mind, right? Like all the things can be going wrong on a shift, on a job, on a work, in a gym, wherever it is you are, a whole bunches of things can go wrong. But while things are going wrong, something is always still going right. And choosing to find that happy, choosing to decide, okay, well, this isn't exactly this position I want to be in, but I'm going to find the good today and I'm going to make today the best day. That's a power play. That's amazing. Yeah.
like for example, I think we can all agree on this, especially because obviously you're way older than me, like in the good way, uh, in the good way. So it's just one of those things where you become an adult not because of the amount of money you pay, but because of the amount of responsibility you can take on your shoulders.
Yeah. Nice.
And like for example, with in my case, I think I've always been a leader. I just never knew it. Because then I think that happens with all of us. Because like when you're born to be a leader, you're born to be a leader. Period. End of the story. That's it. You're not born to be anything else. You're born to be a leader, and you're gonna lead people in different situations, right? And for example, like I had to help my mom because like it was always me and my mom while I was growing up, right? It was so I had to step up, right? Again, the leader on me, right? It's like life prepared me with difficult challenges, right? Like it's like life prepared me with almost like let's say impossible challenges for somebody at that age,
Yeah.
and I still overcame everything, and I'm
Yeah.
here, right?
And you learn to
Which
push through and find the joy. That's awesome.
exactly, it's
Yeah.
like for example, in the same situation a year ago, in the same spot, literally same spot, same room, same spot, whatever. A year ago, in all situations in life, I was nervous, anxious, very emotional, weak. Because if you can control your emotions, you're weak. It is my in my solely opinion, in my solely because that's why it exists rapists and murderers and like whatever. Because they can control their emotions.
I mean, I agree. I think leadership starts with self. Learn to handle your triggers before you trigger all over people. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then going from that, and then a year ago on same spot, whatever, but like unrecognizable, like completely unrecognizable. And I did that everywhere, but
Nice.
but only after 17, because I saw something on, because I sent to Irina about like numerology, the video where like you add all the numbers of your birth date, and it gets you two digits, right? And
Hmm.
those two digits is the years where it changes. And my life like did change, uh like at 17, which was
Oh.
insane. But like, for example, Irina, um like, what do you think in terms of like, if regarding everything that was
So
just
actually,
said?
I would love to hear Irina's story about
Yeah,
her step into leadership.
exactly. Yes, yes, yes. Like, what is your story in terms
So
of
for
like?
me, what really was with the bosses, right, with the negative bosses, because for me, the leadership is the person who really can have the team around, meaning that I am here to help you. It's not about I am here to tell you what you have to do. I am a part of that team. And if we are going to rise, we are going to rise together. If we are falling, we are falling together. Take that responsibility, understanding that you are also part of it. You cannot just put everybody in blame and in charge to do the work so you could just look better in front of the executives and just show the work, right? Always recognize the people, because that's what it is. It's all the teamwork and it's
Mhm.
all about everybody, right? And praise people, because the common hour thinking it's all about criticizing, and I had so much from that, negative boss, that I just, like, it made me to realize I'm always like inspiring others, but it made me even more realizing how important it is to hear good comment from others, right? About, what a great job you've done, like, you're so amazing. Because when we inspire people, people are willing to put more hours, people are willing to do more things, because they know that they are appreciated, and it doesn't take that much. I'm telling you, like, sometimes one kind word could make a completely different outcome. So that's what exactly was for me.
And I agree with Irina 1,000%. People in general, no matter if it's in business or in our day-to-day relationships, they are starved of compliments. They're starved of recognizing where they're good and where they excel. They think that they don't matter, when in reality, we don't say enough for them to know that they matter so much around our lives.
Oh my God, I love that. So that follows the perfect path. So leadership, like Bruno was saying, starts with self, starts with getting your mind in the right place. But the once you handled me, it goes right to we, right? And that's all about the reality that none of us have ever done any of this alone. And too often in a relationship of any kind, but especially that's not how this is done. Try this a different way. Don't. Which fine, like I get that. But if you want to lead in a relationship, you need to work with that team and tell them what they're doing right. Way more than what they're doing wrong, because then that's the voice that's in their head. That's they're going, this is the right thing to do, I'll do that. This is the right thing to do, I'll do that. This is the right thing to do, I'll do that. Rather than, oh, I shouldn't do that, I shouldn't. And now they're like, I don't know what to do because I only know what not to do. What am I allowed to do?
That is true.
And that is the
That's
magic
very
of
true.
leading through relationships, is that you see somebody cowering in the corner who wants to do the right thing but literally has no idea how to go about it. And rather than continuing to tell them what not to do, get to know them, reach out, find out why they're struggling, empower them to make that better choice the same way that someone somewhere saw you and allowed you to become that leader.
Mhm.
May I
Another,
just add one comment, like the last thing to wrap it up? um, we are rising up by lifting others. And this is the best line that I learned in my life. I was participating, in one of the gathering with the women on the panel, and one of the girls just said that, and it just stick in my head. And this is so true. This is what the powerful and influential leader does. They rise everybody else, and that's the way they come on top as well.
Boom.
Mm-hmm.
That period. And it's all relationships. It's all about figuring out what somebody else needs so that they can get the job done. Yeah, none of us do this alone.
You know,
Yeah. And
like
I
when
want, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna give a little example because Irina was saying very well. Like she was saying that like you don't tell them what to do, you show them, right? That's what a leader does. And Mark Cuban did that with when he bought the Dallas Mavericks. When Mark Cuban bought the Dallas Mavericks, he he had his like little phone book and whatever. He had like 7 to 8 salespeople with him, but he was calling people as well, right? Kind of showing them what to do, saying like, "Listen, uh, you're gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it, right?" And show them what to do because I'll do it as well, and that just drives people more forward. It just drives people more forward, which is very good.
It's nice to know we're not alone. And that's really the best part of a relationship.
Mm-hmm. And that is true. As a leader, understanding that if you make your team feel like a team, that's great. But also understanding where your teammates are the strongest also helps you become a wise leader. Because here's the thing, everybody's valuable. There's not even one person in your team. If you as a leader see one person in your team is not valuable, then you're failing as a leader, because your job is, if that person is failing somewhere, find where they excel and then drop them there, because then you're going to see them rise. And then whatever is missing, figure somebody who has those sets, those skill sets,
Yes.
and then move on. That is, I think, the biggest show of love from a leader to somebody in their team, making them understand that while yes, this is not where you're best at, you're amazing at this. Let's figure out how to make you grow on that end.
Yeah.
Relate with them to what they're doing. Ooh, relationships again. Yeah. That was beautiful, you guys. Thank you so much. 100%. That is exactly it. It is all about recognizing yourself and where you need to grow so that you can recognize someone else and know where they need to go, because none of us get there by ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's
That is.
all teamwork. What's gonna work? Teamwork. And that's how it is. And
Yes.
the greatest leaders always recognize it. They know
Period.
exactly that without the team, they could never be the leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Mm-hmm.
And that is
Because
why I love all of you.
oh, thank you. Yeah.
All of you are awesome. So, without further ado, anybody else has anything to add before we say goodbye and we announce our next week's topic?
Do it.
Bring it on. What's next week topic?
Next week is Irina. Irina, you're gonna be leading our next one, is self-love.
Yay! This is my favorite topic.
Nice one.
All right,
Yay!
so everybody don't miss out. I know Irina has great things to teach us and help us grow within ourselves. So we'll see you next Monday. To everyone watching this on a recorded, please, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, write them in the comments. We'll be happy to reply to you as quickly as we can. And have an awesome week. Take care, everyone.
Have a
Bye.
beautiful week.
Bye.